Hey everybody, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com back for another training camp battle prediction and preview. And wanted to do one more of these before training camp really gets officially underway on Monday when the pads come on for 14 days of padded practices. And want to talk about the outside linebacker battle. Of course, we know the starters, TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, but who's going to be next man up? Who's going to be behind those guys when someone needs to get rotated in, or knock on wood, there's an injury or an illness? And you have three names there trying to duke it out. You have Ola Adeniyi, you have Tuzar Skipper, and rookie Alex Highsmith. Of course, Alex Highsmith is a lock to make the roster, and I think Ola Adeniyi has a really good chance to make the roster as well, but it's still unclear of who's going to be that next man up. Of course, Highsmith, the rookie third-round pick out of Charlotte, is a lock to make the roster, and you think Adeniyi would have a really good chance to make the team as well, but there's still no clarity on who's going to be that next man up. We'll start with Highsmith, and well, the team's excited about him, and obviously said a lot of good things, and I think he's a really refined prospect for the smaller conference he played in, which was not terribly small. It was still D1 FBS level, but a guy that didn't really play a lot of actual outside linebacker edge rusher until his last year at Charlotte, his senior season. Because before that, he was playing as like a base end, playing 4-eye with his hand in the dirt and playing some three tech, and it was just kind of a weird situation, a weird fit for him. So he progressed nicely. He's got a really good pass rush plan. He's got a great football IQ. He's a good, not great, but good athlete. But of course, the elephant in the room for all these young guys, all these rookies, is all the time miss. No spring workouts, no rookie minicamp, no OTAs, no regular minicamp, no preseason games to get work in. And so, can you make up with all those reps lost? Steelers estimate you lost around 900 to 1,000 snaps in the preseason, or in the offseason, I should say, that simply cannot be replicated. So, can you make up for all that lost time? Can you earn the trust of the coaching staff to be detail oriented, to set the edge against the run, to be able to move around the formation, to stunt, to do all the little detail things you'll have to do to play outside linebacker in the system that still demands a lot from those guys to be able to handle basically everything, whether that's splitting out to walk out on a receiver that gets split out, or a tight end, or whatever the case is, cover running backs, the whole route tree. You guys get the idea. So, can Highsmith prove that and prove that right away? That's going to be the challenge for him, and why he may not be the guy to start the season, at least as the number three outside linebacker. Then, of course, there's Adani, who has had really good summers the last 2 years. Again, obviously, we won't really get to replicate that again without an actual, traditional training camp setting in preseason. But he's had really impressive summers. Really kind of caught everyone's attention. UDFA 2 years ago out of Toledo, and did a nice job last year as well. But he's had some health issues too, where he's been a nagging injury late in the summer, trips him up, kind of stunts his start of the season, and doesn't set a good tone for the year. Played more last year with Anthony Chickolo missing time, being suspended, and Ola just getting more reps in the rotation. And he's been serviceable. It hasn't been as good as it looks in the summer, which you'd expect whenever you're facing actual, starter caliber talent, as opposed to some of the backups you'll get, whether that's in preseason or in training camp. But he's a guy that I think overall is pretty well rounded. He sets a good edge. He's strong at the point of attack. He's got natural leverage because he's a shorter guy and he can be able to rip through and bend the edge. But it hasn't been perfect. And unfortunately for him, just not a lot of production. Still looking for his first official career sack. Again, really, 2018, there was so many injury problems. Got put on IR to return to start the year, and that basically just wiped out his 2018. And last year, did not record a sack. Remember that Baltimore game where he gets called for this very questionable roughing the passer call on Lamar Jackson. Ends up keeping that game alive for Baltimore. Not really his fault, but the production hasn't translated to that summer hype we've seen. And so you're still kind of waiting and wanting more. And again, it's tough because the guy doesn't get to play a whole lot. Dupree and Watt are playing 85, 90% of the time. It's just only so few opportunities if you're a guy like a Daney to get in there. And he's not even been the full number three outside linebacker either, because he still rotated with Chick whenever Chickalo was available at times last season. So you're just still wanting more, and you're still wondering exactly what you have in that guy. And then Tuzar Skipper, who was a training camp darling last year, who had an amazing camp, great preseason. I think he had 4 or 5 sacks, and led the NFL in preseason sacks last season. Looked like the Steelers were going to keep him. They had him on the initial 53, but he ended up getting cut. I think that's the day before week one, the Saturday before. Ends up getting claimed by the Giants. Played about 50 defensive snaps with them. I think had a half sack, ended up circling back to Pittsburgh, and now he's here for year two. Another guy that could have really used having a second off season. Really, chance for him to pick up where he left off in Pittsburgh. Obviously, will not have that opportunity. The big thing for Skipper is, the weird thing with him last year in camp and in the summer was that he did not play on special teams. And if you're not a starting linebacker for this team, any team in the NFL, you better play special teams. And he just really wasn't given the opportunity. It wasn't until the preseason finale against Carolina, where he was actually at least on those units, got a chance to play in special teams, and did well, I believe, with 2 tackles. But the team, for whatever reason, just didn't really have confidence or a desire to look at him in that capacity. And so you look at this year without a preseason game, and you really can't replicate this stuff in training camp, special teams wise. It's going to be hard for him to show that ability as well. And so that's a real ding for him that would hurt him more than a guy like Ola, who's played special teams before, and a guy like Highsmith, who, of course, is going to make the roster and end up playing a special team. So, and, Skipper's roster chances are not as strong as Adeniyi or Highsmith. I still think he's going to make the roster, especially because they're likely to only keep 4 inside linebackers. Because I don't see a fifth one to emerge. But can he get a hat on game day is going to be the thing with him. And do they trust him to play as a potential core, at least multi-phase special teams player? And right now, I don't see that. And again, won't have the preseason, the summer, the month of August, to prove that to the Steelers. So that's going to be the big thing that hurts him. So I think to start the year, Adeniyi's going to open up as the number 3 outside linebacker. Maybe Alex Highsmith gets rotated in to some degree, and throughout the season, he'll play more and more, maybe cut into Adeniyi snaps. Although if Watt and Dupree are producing like they reasonably should, and every expectation that they will, and Adeniyi's doing well, and you probably don't want to rock the boat if you're the Steelers and you're saying, let's just roll with the group we have, that there's no reason to make a change. If we're getting production the way we need it and the way we want it, then we're just going to let the top 3 be the top 3. And that's reasonable too. So Highsmith, it's unclear how much he's going to play this year. And that can make an interesting decision next year, assuming Bud Dupree's gone. Do you roll with Highsmith as your starting outside linebacker in 2021, even though he maybe only played, say, 100 and 150 snaps on defense with a little production? Or do you go draft and invest heavily into the draft again, like they have with Watt and Dupree and Jarvis Jones? And, they definitely prioritize drafting pass rushers early. So that's a sidebar, not relevant to the camp battle today. But bottom line, I think all 3 will make the team to start the year. I think Ola will be the number 3 outside linebacker. I think Highsmith, the number 4, may get a little bit of playing time. Will play on special teams. And Tuzar Skipper, I think, has a decent chance to be an active to start this season. So let me know your thoughts on this camp battle between the 3 outside linebackers in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.